So we have got 113 people who have joined.
Hello. Hello. Sir, please start chat box. Sir, please start chat box. The effective use of this webinar. Please start the chat box. For effective use of the webinar, please start the chat box. For effective use of this webinar, please start the chat box. For effective use of this webinar, please start the chat box.
But chat box is disabled.
Without enabling the chat box, there is no use of this webinars because
have been given the rights.
हाँ सर, सबको राइट्स मिल गए हैं सर, सब है। ये कोई
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Request to close the co-host. Kindly do not close the breakout room. This is request to all co-hosts. Kindly do not close the breakout room.
अनम्यूट कीजिए हो गया आपका
अनाउंस कर दिए.
Sir, please start chat box. Without the stakeholders input, there is no meaning of this webinar. You are requested to start the chat box. So what is the expected time to start this webinar or session 3?
Is there someone from DPIIT here? Is there anyone from DPIIT here?
Sir, we request to start chat box. Sir, we request to start the chat box. At present, it is disabled. Sir, can you hear me?
yes I can hear you
Yeah, we can hear. Hello.
Sir, we request you to start the chat box.
Good morning, sir. I am Joydeep Ghosh, Director of Joydeep Consultancy Services Private Limited. I am from Barakpur.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Are we audible?
Hello. Hello.
yes I can hear you
सर आवाज आ रही है?
इसमें से आ रही है
so we can hear you
Sir, please start our also start video. Sir, please also start our video.
हेलो.
your video is
बात कर रहे हैं आवाज आ
Hello, Mr. Kambad, am I audible?
a very good morning. This is Manmeet Nanda from DPIIT. Am I audible and visible, please?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Great. So there has been an issue, I think, by the link that is shared by Meti with us. So I've come on to a laptop and let's wait for about 5 more minutes for others to join. There is some issue with these links. I really regret the inconvenience.
Okay.
Sure, ma'am, we are waiting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sir, again, we request to start the chat box at present.
I'm just doing a rain check, just trying to identify. Just doing a rain check. Is Mr. Amit Pandey, Vice President, IVCA online?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much. Do we have Mr. Peruz Kambata, Chairman, CII, National Committee on Affirmative Action?
Yeah, I am online, but my PPT is there. Am I to share my PPT or the administrator will share my PPT?
No, the administrator will do that.
Okay, and I'm audible, right?
Yes, Mr. Kambata, loud and clear. Thank you. Is Mr. Vishwanathan Ravichandra, Executive Director, Technology, ENY online, please?
Good morning, ma'am. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Good morning. Thank you. Is Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya online, please?
Yes, madam, I'm online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I can't hear you.
But do you have the presentation? Mr. Amit, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
All right. Can I request Mr. Amit to come online and give his comments, please?
Yeah, I'm on, ma'am. Will we have the presentation on?
You can't see the slides? You can't see your slides?
I can't see my slides. No. I can't see my slides, ma'am.
All right, wait, just please hang on.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Ma'am, alternatively, we can also share our slides directly from the laptop.
I think that will be the best because I think whatever system METI has provided, it's not working. And I also have to come on this particular laptop and only speak. It's not taken in anything else. So if I can request Mr. Amit to share the slides.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Please give me a moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Meanwhile, we can put it here on the system.
Ma'am, I guess I can't share my screen right now, so I'll need the rights. Or I can share my slides on WhatsApp, and maybe whoever is the host can.
No, we have your slides, but they have not given us also the sharing access, and there is some issue in their links that they have. I think you should just speak.
I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, slides are there.
Oh, it had just come, and I can't see it again now.
No, that was mine actually. I was just checking if I have the right. So maybe you can send it to me and I can do it for everybody. I'm happy to do that.
So, I mean, if you're the co-host, maybe you can also make us the co-host.
Let me try. Sure.
Jayji?
Yes, please. Let me try. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, I mean, just to prevent any further delay, I'm okay to go on without the slides, ma'am. If that's okay, Manmeet, ma'am.
We are just waiting here. Whatever you're comfortable with. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll begin. So thank you so much, first of all, to all of the dignitaries who are present here, and especially to the Honorable Prime Minister who started the session today, and to DPIIT, Commerce Ministry, Finance Ministry. DPIIT has always been very, very supportive to the industry body. So my name is Amit Pandey. I represent the Indian Venture and Alternate Capital Association, IVCA. We represent India's private capital ecosystem, all of the angel, venture, and private equity investors to the Government of India, policymakers, regulators. And like I was saying earlier, the government has been a very listening government, and DPIIT has been immensely supportive to us on a bunch of the issues that have been faced by the industry at large, be it startups, be it the private equity and venture capital investors, whether domestic or global. It has been very heartwarming for the IVCA and our member base, which is more than 350 members currently and growing, which represents around half of the, in terms of capital, it represents around 80% of the private capital that is being invested into the ecosystem currently, the startup ecosystem. And in terms of member base, it represents close to 40-50% of the SEBI registered AIF, and definitely the investors as well. So on that note, I would, on that wonderful thank you note, I would first like to again commend the government for a very welcoming budget. And I will now come back to our topic, which is the Common Business Identifier. So I'd like to open this very welcome move with an important point that the Common Business Identifier will be to the businesses as Aadhaar has become for the individuals in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very big move by the Government of India, and it's going to transform how the businesses are operating in the current in the country. Because before this, definitely, there were different ways in which a company was dealing with different regulators. But after this, this one-point contact for these companies will be transformative. For example, all of the digital public goods, platforms like ONDC, etc., that are onboarding so many businesses, enterprises, it will become so easy for all of these digital initiatives that have been taken by the Government of India to onboard all of these businesses on the platforms. And it will definitely ensure also a very smooth onboarding of all of these businesses. We will prevent, things like payment mismatch. Those will definitely go down. And most of all, I think, where the Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned that, the number of compliances have been dramatically reduced. More than 40,000, compliances have been cut down. And we've come from, say 134 rank to 63 in the last 7-8 years. So this has been a massive move, and it's only happened because of reduction of the compliances. And we have seen the phenomenal growth from where I come from. We have seen the phenomenal growth in the startup investor ecosystem, which is again, a big credit goes to initiatives like Startup India, the support by DPIIT, DEA, Finance Ministry on reducing a bunch of these compliances. And we have been listening to a lot of talks around the governance, corporate governance. Again, we are very sure, and the industry body is very positive that such a move will definitely improve the governance of the Indian companies. I'm sorry, there was a glitch, I presume, but I'm back. So
yes, please carry on, Amitji.
Yeah. So basically what I was saying was that governance has also become a very major, important aspect. Of late, we have seen a few news articles, but I'm sure with reduction of compliance burdens and of this magnitude, it will definitely improve the governance of our companies. And then, like I mentioned earlier also, basically, just like the fintech companies got a massive support from Aadhaar, similar to that, a lot of regulatory technology companies, the RegTech ecosystem is definitely going to get a massive boost from this CBI, the Common Business Identifier as PAN. And this will definitely be a transformative measure in times to come. Now, definitely, a lot of things will be seen when the rubber hits the road, and we are definitely hopeful of the government that the government will be ensuring that there is a smooth transition of all of the companies to this singular platform, and also it becomes easier. And so that it becomes easier, and we are hopeful that the other privacy security concerns will be taken care of when we are making this small move. And definitely we will be hopeful that all of the relevant training is given to every important stakeholder which will be benefiting out of this move. So and it has happened in the past, and things like this have taken, Aadhaar, probably when it was started, probably it was just a simple small move, but then today we are seeing things like UPI getting adopted globally. It's not just in India positively, but it's gone beyond the country. And similar to that, we are hopeful that this wonderful move of Common Business Identifier as PAN will definitely boost the startup ecosystem with the RegTech platforms. Will be able to see immense benefit out of this singular point of contact, and not just the RegTech startups, but also all of the regulators, policymakers. They will have such an easy sort of data capturing mechanisms wherein all of the business data will be available in one point of contact in one single place. So on that note, I'll close from where I started off with. Just like Aadhaar was to individuals, the Common Business Identifier will be to the businesses. And on that wonderful note, I hand you back to you, Manmeet, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to the wonderful set of speakers going forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amirji. Thank you for your kind remarks. Very encouraging to know that this budget announcement of a single business ID is something that all business entities, startups, small MSMEs, or big companies were looking forward to. And I believe that this would be a game changer too. Like you said, what Aadhaar is to the individual, the Common Business ID in the terms of PAN would be to a business entity. And I believe that eventually, with all the mapping of the different databases that are prevalent today, and it will lead to better registration, easier onboarding on all government digital portals. And we look forward to that time where this really reaches that level that we would started this journey with. I thank you for your kind remarks and look forward to further interaction with you in this entire conversation. Taking from here, we next invite our panelist, Mr. Pirooz Kambata, please.
Good morning, Mr. Kambata here. Can somebody share my PPT?
Yes, Piruzji, trying to do just that. Today, technology has completely failed us. I really apologize for all
No,
the
I know
abuse.
that, and it was one of my points. I think technology has to fail, and that's why we need a help desk. In all the government
That's
services
true.
where such a thing is there, it was going to be my point. You need an active help desk. For example, in my own case, we had to file a certain tax within a certain time. We tried to file it for 24 hours. We are not able to file it. We file it after 10 hours, and they have charged us penalty and interest for 1 month for the delay, which was beyond our control. So I think if you ask me, it was a completely, we were charged huge penalties just because of the issue of the hardware of the government side. So I believe we need a helpline, so at least we can lodge a complaint. So at least if there is a penalty, we can show that देखो भाई हमने तो किया था, पर हमारा 1 महीना बिगड़ा, इसके लिए हमको penalty मत charge करो. This is what was going to be a point, but I'm going to make it right now.
Very well point taken, and I think I just like to announce to the audience in the web room that with the National Single Window, our Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister directed us exactly this when he had reviewed it with the industry and the Industry Association in December. And since then, active grievance cell has started, and they do live calls between 3 to 4. And I was very pleasantly surprised when I referred to somebody exactly like you who came up to me and said, I'm having problems registering on this website. They were taken in through a seamless process. There was somebody talking to them, hand-holding them. And of course, like our Honorable Prime Minister said, the conversation between Aam Aadmi and the government needs to be ensured, and grievance redressal forums of every government portal are the backbone of the success of that portal. Waiting to hear you, Mr. Kambata. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think I will start with a little bit background. I think the first slide, please. The first slide was on. And the background is in this budget, we have seen that the government has announced a slew of measures. And I am very confident that as we move forward, like we have seen in COVID, digital actually helped us really come out of COVID very quickly. And now digital is going to really help this ease of doing business in a big way. There are certain key announcements by the government which I'm very happy about. I'll just mention before I move to some of recommendations. Number one being the launch of the National Single Window System and India Industrial Land Bank. I think both of them are very great measures, and the industry welcomes it. Along with decriminalization of business laws, which the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, reduction in regulatory compliances, I think we welcome that. Also, the BRAP, the Business Reform Action Plan, has really been implemented very well across the states, and I think industry really welcomes this. In the BRAP, the Central Inspection System, self-third-party certification, e-courts, online approvals for environment, labor. I think these are all great steps. Now, I have some recommendations which I am going to dwell more time on, which I would want everybody to note and see how best we can work on them. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So these are some of the recommendations. One, we want to constitute a centralized KY registry, what we call a CKY registry. It is leveraging all the blockchains, AI together, integrating CKYC with the DigiLocker, which we have been talking about. Introducing regulatory modifications like yearly updates in the KYC documents, registration departments in all states to adopt the same KYC process to reduce documentation at the time of deposit of title deeds, mortgages, documents, release of documents. Next slide, please. The KYC requirement should be on a risk profile basis, like mandate and financial institutions to have assessments like on various risk profiles. There's somebody like in green, orange, like in environment there is red. Similarly, they should have this risk elements, and then they should ask for the data. And that will ensure that the smaller businesses which are at lower risk don't have to comply too much of norms. Bring KYC on a single window system in different government departments and central and state ministries. Leverage artificial intelligence to avoid unnecessary countable contests. Encourage online video KYC. Geotagging using Google Maps. Promote real-time KYC elimination, eliminating the need of physical signatures and multiple visits by the bank officials. Next slide, please. We also see that there are multiple levels of verification. Mr. Harish Wadhwa, if you can mute yourself. Mr. Harish Wadhwa, if you can mute yourself. Thank you. To ensure lower KYC requirements, if a customer already has a verified KYC compliant account and wants to open a second account or account with a mutual fund in the same bank, I believe a lot of repeated KYC is being done. So if there is at least one level of KYC, that if one person does a KYC, then the rest can be followed in the similar banks or mutual funds. That will really help unnecessary, what I call ease compliance actually. The other important point which I'm going to make, which I just talk about, is how do we decriminalize the laws in the KYC domains? The offenses of KYC processes may be notified according to gravity, and criminal provisions should be replaced by appropriate penalties. I don't believe anything to do with KYC should have anything other than penalty. For small offenses, there should be a simple compounding without penalty also, by just giving a warning, because there are many times minor or unintentional offenses. Also, little delays, 1 or 2 hours or 1 or 2 days should be really allowed, and unnecessary penalties or interest should not be taken, put in. And an appellate mechanism has to be put in place. Before you lodge any penalty or charge any interest or start prosecution, there should be an appellate position mechanism in place so that cases are resolved. These are my feeling. And of course, there has to be some sort of help desk and helpline so that these issues don't take place only in the first place. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now, important thing is the KYC norms between banks and NBFCs should have parity. So when banks conduct a certain KYC, NBFCs should adopt the same things. And that should all be done digitally. And whatever right now also NBFC norms are there for KYC norms and NBFCs needs further simplification. There also has to be an intelligent interlinkage between GST, PAN and TEN. This will really encourage KYC. And I really am very happy that PAN is now being used as a common identifier for businesses. I'm sure it is going to help. Several approvals and licenses are linked to GST. It is also important that this is done in such a way that there is no need of multiple filing at various stages. And of course, I did once again mention there needs to be online centralized helpline to provide assistance and guidance. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Before I end, let me once again thank the Department of Policy, Industry and Training, DPIT, to really have me here. And I'm very happy that we are having an open government which can listen to us and ensure that we work together in this the real task which the Prime Minister mentioned of ease of living. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kambata. I, in fact, would love to hear suggestions from the audiences once all the panelists finished of how we can use artificial intelligence and improve this interlinking of the CKYC with the DigiLocker and all other IDs, and of course with the National Business ID, that would be PAN, and also how they, in their view, think about the risk profiling of entities and how, based on the risk profiling, the number of documentations should be asked by different regulators and entities. Would be something that would be an interesting conversation to have.
No, that's why I suggested that there should be a very simple green, yellow, red sort of identification. People who are red, you bother them with a lot of things who are identified. People who are green and yellow, orange or yellow, whatever, you please ensure that they are led with the simplest possible things so that life moves on, to make it simple.
Yes, I think that's good. And some state governments have also allowed certain MSMEs, for example, to start functioning without any approvals at all, like self-certification.
Self-certification
process. Yes. So I think the government, as we need to move around to being more on trust basis with the business entities and individuals, this is a right step in the right direction. Somebody wanted to speak. Can I just request that let all the panelists give their comments, and then the house is open for discussion for a good 50 minutes. So calling on to the next panelist, please, Mr. Vishwanathan Ravichandran, ED Technology, Ernst & Young, please.
Thank you, ma'am. I would say more than normal, warm good morning in February to all my friends in Delhi, and a warm good morning to all the attendees over here. I'm really honored to be invited to this esteemed panel for presenting my views today and potentially using technology for unleashing India's economy. I think it's a fascinating moment in the progress of India's economy, and the Honorable Prime Minister has really set the tone for the discussion today. I'm Vishwanathan Ravichandran, and I'm an executive director at ENY, and I focus on technology initiatives of government for ease of doing business, ME, and trade facilitation. As the slides indicate, my focus today would be unified compliance, and I would like to present my thoughts on how it may be undertaken. As in the plenary session, as Dr. Pawan Goenka mentioned, the ease of doing business initiative in itself has been a journey, and DPIIT has been playing a pivotal role in taking this journey forward. What has happened, I would say, over the last decade is that the government has really demonstrated to the world the power of harnessing technology for bringing in accessibility and inclusion. The InstaX specifically, if I talk about it, is now a global benchmark for all countries. And Mr. Amit also mentioned about the digital public infrastructure and how its adoption by people has really provided a unique competitive advantage to the Indian economy. There are also remarkable initiatives going on, which Amitji talked about, like about open network of digital commerce and how it's trying to really take on the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world and bringing into the fold smaller businesses. And it was also mentioned in the morning that leveraging technology, government has already taken multiple measures like introduction of GST, faceless administration, faceless assessment and taxation, enablement of national single window for getting permits, and etc. But I still feel that there are avenues for enabling the small businesses in reaching the potential, because these businesses are those which are actually, I would say, the backbone of India's economy. Over 90% of India's enterprises, in our understanding, are MSMEs, and the nation's 63 million MSMEs contribute to nearly 28% of the GDP. So even though these MSMEs are contributing at such a high end, conservative estimates say that the annual cost of compliance for these small businesses is around 12 lakhs, which is approximately 1 lakh a month, which, if you think about it, is way too high for them. And whatever we are proposing right now, especially the budget announcement around the initiative of unified filing process, I think it comes at a very, very opportune moment based on whatever is happening. I think it has been emphasized enough between Pirojji and Amit that the gateway to building a unified compliance portal will have to begin with having that unified key to enter that gateway, right? And PAN would the announcement of having PAN as that common identifier will pave the way for bringing in this unified compliance. But in my view, it would have to be a journey. I think Pirojji time and again mentioned about that amber, green, red of understanding who you are and doing compliance accordingly. In my view, I think before we nudge people to be compliant, I think we'll have to indicate to them what is their compliance position, and a know your compliance status mobile app really would help all these small businesses understand what all do they need to. I remember talking to the son of a colleague, and he didn't know he had to have some electricity permits and building permits from the floor he was operating on in a place in Okhla. So those are things which especially these young entrepreneurs need to know as to how do they navigate the ecosystem. And then this app may get like, this can be a part of the national single window, or this may gradually get transitioned into the national single window for helping these entities undertaking their compliance. Go on to the next slide, please. Right. Thank you. what can really happen is that while National Single Window has been onboarding a lot of services onto their platform, I think it's also imperative that when the different ministries and different organizations and entities under the government are building their compliance norms and the related IT applications, they really start thinking about it from an open architecture perspective, and how do they unbundle the service so that tomorrow it could be made available through a platform like NSWS seamlessly. Government has already demonstrated this successfully in the past through Aadhaar, GSTN, and the entire initiative which happened around the GST Suvidha provided. So it's been done in the past, and I'm sure it can be done in the future as well. And once this unbundling happens, the ability for NSWS to provide these services through a single gateway will get very, very simplified. So it may have to again be a two-step process, maybe interlinkages through common PAN between NSWS, transitioning and linking back to the parent portal and helping them file, and finally, eventually everything coming on to NSWS. Now, what would happen is that since there'll be so much data available, there can be, as what the government has done for income tax and a few other initiatives, is an opportunity to also help the small businesses with their compliance. A lot of data can get pre-populated based on consent, and then enable the small businesses file their returns and everything. But as Ms. Divyani talked about in the morning, while we are doing all of this and the government itself has focused on data governance, privacy and data security concerns would be critical while managing this, because there'll be so much data available. I think it'll have to be managed correctly. Lastly, I think Mr. Feroze also alluded to the point about grievances. Where the actual 360-degree feedback and the linkages can happen, and it can become closed loop, is that while the people are filing their compliances, there can also be an integrated grievance redressal mechanism, which can really help people do their compliances in time while they are managing their costs. So that's about it from my side. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vishwanathan. Very interesting comments and suggestions. Of course, the National Single Window has been envisaged to be a one-stop shop for all business solution. And also we envisage it that not just new entities would log on to the National Single Window and take advantage of it and file for business, but also eventually it will be a single stop shop for filing of all the returns, and that is how we see the unified filing system. I agree with the fact that Know Your Appliances app would be a great solution. Already on the National Single Window, we have something known as Know Your Approvals, which is something exactly what we are trying to envisage. And not a bad idea to also make it as an app and aggregate it or bring it to the National Single Window. The work has happened, but like Dr. Pawan Goenka mentioned during his special comments, that the ease of doing business is not just a journey, it's a process, and the process which does not really have any limit. There will be a lot of visions coming in, a lot of lateral thinking, a lot of creativity that will bring us along in that journey. And I think the budgets, this para of unified linking and filing is indeed one step in that direction. Thank you so much for your initial remarks. We move on to this last panelist of this breakout session, Mr. Jayjeet Bhattacharya, founder and president of Center for Digital Economy and Policy and Research. Mr. Jayjeet, please, over to you.
Thank you. A very good afternoon to everyone. Can we move to the first slide, please?
Sorry, we have 3 more panelists. My bad, I misspelled that. Sorry about that.
Sure. Could we move to the next slide, please? So I think, as has already been discussed in the first session and in the subsequent panel discussion that we're having, There has been tremendous amount of progress that has happened in ease of doing business. As has been widely spoken, our ranks went up from the 142nd rank in World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index in 2014 to 63rd rank in 2019, almost a 80 rank jump. This was based on the survey in Delhi and Mumbai. And therefore, the government of India and DPIIT actually took a larger step to ensure that ease of doing business is not just Delhi and Mumbai, but is spread to the rest of the states. And therefore, the Business Reform Action Plan was initiated again in 2014. And I was actually a part of that, formulating each of the action points that needs to be taken. Over 840 action plans were actually identified, which was then pared down to about 200, 250, so that it is monitorable and it is implementable. There were 301 reform points that finally was adopted in 2019, 2020, which covered over 15 business regulatory areas. There were sectoral reforms introduced in BRAP from 2020 with 72 reforms that were identified. Now, the reason why the reforms that we're undergoing in this decade, why is it very different from the ones in 1991, is because there is no large 3 or 4 regulations that, if change can lead to significant reform. It's a very tedious process of chipping at each and every regulation, which are vestigial in nature, which have accumulated over decades, and which now needs removed. So it's a very, very tedious process. And fortunately, the government has been working on it at a ferocious pace, chipping away at all of these regulations that have been accumulated and making it easier for business to do what they are supposed to do. Can I move to the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide? So having said that, there are still significant challenges that are being observed. And obviously, as was mentioned by the Joint Secretary, that it's unlimited number of changes that are needed. But however, I think some of the focus areas that seems to be missed out for quite some time is that most of the reforms are focused on large to medium enterprises, at max to small business focus. But the micro businesses, the requirements of micro business are not even bubbling up, leave alone being addressed. And it's a challenge because we really don't have a very robust process to bubble up the requirements of the micro businesses. To take an example, if somebody is exporting a high quality to a fashion house, in order to just check that button and take one button, maybe $10, $15 has to be paid. And if it is paid across the counter, it's a violation of FEMA. And therefore, to avoid these issues, they would rather go to Bangladesh than to India to do these transactions. Now, these don't bubble up because in larger companies, there are whole departments which take care of it. But in smaller entities and micro entities, it becomes a significant problem. The number of compliances are still extremely large. In spite of thousands of compliances being simplified, we still have much to solve. Any small company has to go through at least 70 to 80 compliances in a year, be GST, TDS, MGT7, MGT9, DIN, ARP, and so on and so forth. It's still very, very large. And I think it'll be useful to take a look at this challenge, which is continuing. Also, one aspect that is getting missed out in many of the conversations is the issue of trade remedies. As India is growing, our economy is getting misused by foreign entities which are dumping goods into the country and doing many other trade issues. It is important to have a quick remedial action to these, I would say, affront to the Indian economy. And therefore, an ease of doing business for trade remedies will be extremely important as we move forward. Also, many of our startups, small companies, SMEs, they try to set up a representative office in other countries. And the correct way to do that is to have an overseas direct investment route, the ODI route. However, the cost of doing that, and one can set up a $1,000 company anywhere, and it's not much. But the cost of compliance within India far outweighs the $1,000 they need to put in to create that outpost in a Singapore or in a US or wherever. And that cumbersomeness is disproportionate to the investment. Others globally end up just swiping their card and creating these companies and paying the capital amount. So there needs to be some minimal segment below which such cumbersome requirements need not be there. And sometimes the fines on delay in reporting due to bank delays, because overseas investments and inbound investments are both complex. Because of delays in the banking system, the startups and companies end up paying more in terms of penalty than the investment itself. And that has happened multiple number of times. So these challenges still exist. If I can move to the next slide, please. Could we move to the next slide? So some of the possible reforms and solutions, and this is more in terms of pointed changes, but I'll also come to more of principles subsequently, is as many of my co-panelists and industry colleagues had mentioned, is extending the single window clearance in lines of what was envisioned for eBiz, where a lot more can be done on the portal. It's not just for compliances, but also for operational reasons. And perhaps many of these APIs could be given to business softwares so that companies can continue to work through their ERPs or whichever business software that they have. And in the backend, the business softwares integrate with the government and business becomes very, very simple. There's in the realm of possibility, it's only a delta change that is needed. And perhaps a regulation which mandates that any government agency which wants to reach out to the businesses must do so only through this portal. So there need not be a separate portal for indirect tax and direct tax and ROC filing and so on and so forth. One single filing should be enough. There should not be a need for multiple filings, even though there is a difference in it, but those differences can be done in a single portal. Also, there is no reason why we can't set up a electronic invoicing for immediate GST payments. So as of now, there is payments happening after a month or after 3 months, as insofar as option that has been adopted by the companies. But there is no reason why for every single invoice, the money can be split and 18% or whatever the percentage rate for GST is goes to the government immediately. That reduces a lot of overheads and headache for both the businesses and the government. Many businesses may not like to opt for it, but many, especially the smaller ones, would really like to have a system wherein part of the whatever is applicable to be paid as GST is paid immediately. And similarly for TDSs are deposited immediately, and such APIs can easily be created and perhaps should be looked at. It'll reduce the compliance burdens quite significantly. Also, mechanisms to capture requirements of micro business, such as auto rickshaw drivers, need to be able to carry e-commerce packages. As I mentioned, there are many, many examples of what micro businesses need. A simple example is auto rickshaws would like to be part of the e-commerce economy, should be able to carry small packages and deliver it to people's homes. They're not able to do so because of archaic Central Motor Vehicles Acts. Those need to be changed so that they can carry both passengers and small cargoes to enhance their income and improve asset utilization. There are many such examples of micro businesses which are not bubbling up. Also, as I had mentioned, there needs to be a need. There needs to be ease of doing business for trade remedies. Approval rates of what DGTR recommends to Ministry of Finance to have reduced dramatically, especially in the era of Atmanirbhar. This looks a little counterintuitive as to why such a thing has happened. We need to ensure that our fragile, our infantile industries are protected from onslaughts from foreign companies. Last slide, please. Yeah, in terms of way forward, therefore, a few principles, because the number of requirements that needs to be changed on an atomic basis are extremely large. But on a principle basis, it'll be good to have a cost-benefit analysis of all regulations. As a quick example, when Sri Lanka was looking at giving passports in 3 days flat, there were challenges where people said, what about the criminals who will get the passports very quickly? And the counterpoint given was that the criminals are anyways getting it, but people who need jobs, there's no point in stopping them for 2 months. It's a national loss that will happen. And therefore, as part of the cost-benefit analysis, the moment someone applies for passport, they get the passport in the next 2 days. And therefore, that's a good point to look at in terms of how cost-benefit analysis of all regulations needs to be done. Also, the regulations needs to consider the impact on the lowest common denominator than the highest possible contravention. The point is that it seems that regulation seems to focus on who is going to break the regulation. And therefore, the cost that is imposed on the lowest common denominator, the small companies, the micro companies, and the micro enterprises is extremely high. And therefore, it'll be good to have a risk-based approach for appropriate regulatory oversight and look at what is it that we will end up losing, and rather than putting undue burden on the lowest common denominator in terms of business entities. Also, further platformization would lead to instant reconciliations across the city. There are all kinds of platformization that can be done. A few of them has been suggested by the previous speakers. We need to push for more platformization, for example, providing the APIs for invoicing and instant payment for GST and for TDS and so on and so forth. There are multiple such platformizations can be done. CKYC is another example of platformization. And perhaps all of that could be led through the National Single Window Clearance System. We also need to increase the areas for self-certification and deemed approvals, and not just certification by industry bodies, but truly self-certification. That's a good principle that has been adopted and needs to be further accelerated as we cut through the old regulations. Also, periodic regulatory review to identify redundant or outdated regulations. There are other countries who adopted a principle of 1 in, 2 out, which essentially means that if we are bringing in one new regulation, can we look at throwing out 2 old regulations? It's a good principle. Perhaps we don't need to adopt it the way it is, but we need to keep in mind that there is a lot that needs to be cleaned up, which anyway the ministry and government are doing at a frantic pace. But also there are specific regulations which are of higher priority to be cleaned out. In fact, one of my favorite ones way back in 2006-07 was the Sarai Act, which mandated that all hotels must have an earthen pot in front of their hotel and must have horse stables so that anyone who comes on a horse can park their horse in the horse stable. It finally went out about 7-8 years back after constantly hammering on such outdated regulations, and many such regulations that are still and needs to be taken out. And lastly, we need to decriminalize, again, something that the Honorable Prime Minister talked about. It needs to be ingrained into every single regulation that comes out. Thank you so much for giving me the time to share what the industry has been looking for. And my heartiest congratulations to the government for the relentless pursuit for ease of doing business, and which has been going on for the last 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayajit ji. Very, very interesting remarks made by you. And yes, DPIIT is in complete consonance with what you say when you say that one needs to do a cost-benefit analysis of all the regulations in place, and also understand why a regulation is needed and whether it is actually there or just a complete burden and can be done away with. The 1 in, 2 out rule is something we are also very closely trying to study and emulate. And I believe that you were very closely related to the start of the Business Reform Action Plan when it was all conceived at DPIIT. So your suggestions made today are taken in well. I would also like to assure the audience today that DPIIT is also in a big way trying to study the cost of regulation, as we may put it, the cost-benefit analysis of regulation or the cost of regulation. We are very soon trying to formulate a framework that will study and calculate a cost of certain regulations across different business entities, across different state governments and UTs, and also try and find out ways in which they can be brought down so that either we bring in a more simplified regulatory regime we either simplify or do away with the compliances or re-engineer ourselves. And yet, decriminalization of archaic laws, the ones that you were mentioning about the stable, the water. There are many examples that we, during our study of the Jan Vishwas bill, came about, and it was very shocking to know that we are still following that laws, and those laws still exist in the system. The Jan Vishwas bill, as you may have read, actually looked at many of such laws, and once it will get passed in the parliament, it will be a game changer. And we hope that with this decriminalization, like you mentioned, it becomes a part of every government body who looks at the regulations that exist or the future regulations that they will form, so as to ensure that they are not burdensome and they are kept at the minimum. Thanking you for all your comments. Moving on to our next panelist, Mr. Anil Bhardwaj, Secretary General, Federation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Mr. Bhardwaj, please.
Thank you, Madam. Good afternoon. If somebody could upload the presentation. In the meantime, let me say that given the constraints of global upheaval and lingering supply chain disruptions, the Finance Minister has presented a very balanced budget, growth-oriented budget, inclusive budget, but at the same time, she has also set her eyes on reforms, and particularly she has not forgotten the MSME sector, and the focus has been the MSME sector. You might be aware that MSMEs are big suppliers to government. As a matter of fact, in the central government purchases, there is a set aside for 25%. That is, central government agencies, including the CPSUs, are required to purchase 25% of goods and services from micro and small enterprises. So taken together, MSMEs become a very large number of suppliers to government in the central government and central government related agencies. But during the COVID, as you could envision, many of them had been badly hit, and their projects were not completed in time. They could not do it because of the reasons beyond their control. So government has come out with two very specific schemes, Vivad Se Vishwas 1 and 2. I can begin first with Vivad Se Vishwas 1, which is comparatively straightforward, and where the objective of the government is to give relief to MSMEs in case of failure to execute contracts during COVID period. And the period has been approximately 2 years, from 19 February 2020 to 31st of March 2022. And it has offered a very liberal, you can say, settlement system, whereby refund of forfeited performance security to the tune of 95% is proposed. For bid security, 95% again, and for liquidated damages or LD, 95%. Of course, one caveat is that the liquidated damages so refunded should not exceed 95% of the performance security, which is fair. Now, to whom it is applicable? As I said, it is applicable to all central ministries, departments, autonomous bodies, including public sector banks, financial institutions, and CPSUs. The delivery and completion period should be between this 19 February 2020 to 31st of March 2022. And for refund of EMD, tenders opened between 19 February 2020 to 31st of March 2022. How the scheme is proposed to be implemented is through the GEM portal. The details guidelines are already available at the Department of Expenditure Government of India website. So this is primarily focusing MSMEs who have been badly affected during the COVID period as suppliers. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. No, the previous one. Thank you. Now, Vivad Se Vishwas is even more ambitious in terms of its scope because it intends to address the backlog of old litigations, liquidity constraints, where it is resulting into liquidity constraints in infrastructure and many other sectors also, because a lot of resources are tied in litigation. And increasingly challenging the rewards are becoming costlier and costlier, both for the government as well as for the suppliers and the contractors. There is already existing provision, though, to settle these matters, which is that 75% of the arbitral award, once the arbitral award is given, can be paid against bank guarantee in case award is challenged. Now, you can understand that particularly for MSMEs, it becomes a big burden that if they want to challenge the award, that 75% of is to be provided through the bank guarantee. I mean, they can get 75%, but it has to be backed by the bank guarantee. And bank guarantee has a huge cost for MSMEs. I mean, not in terms of the fee that one has to pay, but also in order to get the bank guarantee, they have to put the collateral security also. So that's why a new scheme is proposed. What the scheme proposes is that if the court order has passed, the 81% of the net amount awarded by the court could be given to settle the matter. And if the arbitral award is passed, then 60% of the amount awarded by the arbitral tribunal could be given and the matter is settled. For ongoing litigation, when the physical activity is stopped because of the court, the case being in the court, only 30% of the net claim is proposed. And ongoing litigation, the context in which physical activity is going on, 20% of the net claim is proposed. So far as the applicability is concerned, one of the party has to be Government of India and its attached subordinate autonomous bodies, including public sector banks, financial institution, public sector financial institutions, CPSUs, and all agencies of Union Territory and NCT Delhi, and organizations where GOI has 50% shareholding, like, for example, the Metro. Disputes, if raised along with above entities and state government or private party, shall not be eligible. I mean, this is the caveat. Only financial claims would be settled or covered under this scheme. And the claim submitted by contractor before 30th of September 2022 and tribal notified. Counterclaims by 31st of December 2022. The way forward, that is for implementation provided, is through a JAM portal, an online portal, and contractor to register on GM to lodge complaint with details. Again, the details are available on Department of Expenditure website. Now, this is the scheme has been proposed and it has been released for public comments, and it has been put in public domain. It is there on the website. People can go there. I mean, it is not notified as yet. So MSMEs, as FISME, as Federation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, so we consulted our member association, 743 associations, and we already have got some ideas and suggestions that I would like to share with you. Next, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the feedback that we are getting from the MSMEs on this particular scheme, that is Vivad Se Vishwas 2, that they have found the settlement amount little too low. Especially the percentage of net amount offered to contractor varies from 80 to 20%, as we have seen, with all legal options still open. Particularly the offer of 60% after winning verdict from the government appointed arbitrator is not seen fair by MSME sector. I think they consider it very low. As you might be aware that in most of the cases, it is the government picks up the arbitrator from their own panel, and it is the government that appoints the arbitrator. So it is seen that if the government appointed arbitrator has given award, there is no point going ahead with the cases against the micro and small and medium enterprises. Interesting thing is that arbitrators' award are actually binding as per the IAC Act and can't be challenged, but on a very few specific issues. But the problem is that in India, unfortunately, courts have taken a view, or maybe I don't know what is the situation, that arbitrators award are routinely challenged. So defeating the very purpose of appointing the arbitrators and going through this process. MSMEs find it very difficult to bear the cost of long legal battles. And that's why they are in lookout, or they need some higher and early compensation mechanism through such a scheme. Further, the scheme offers just 6% of simple interest for delay in payment to creditor after arbitral award. If the arbitral award is given and then the payment is delayed and is not, the matter is not settled for sometimes months and years, then the government agency is required to pay just a 6% simple interest. So the suggestions are the following. For the pre-litigation, there has to be some due diligence, because in the scheme, in the background of the scheme, the government has admitted on its own, and let me read it out, that statistics have shown that in cases where the arbitration award is challenged, a large majority of cases are decided in favor of the contractor. And so we can understand that in most of the cases, the arbitrator would have taken into account all the possible, you can say, possibilities, and then given a right course in terms of the award. And that is why most of these awards are upheld by the higher courts. So there is no point spending a lot of money, government money, on continuing the cases. So our suggestion is that before we go to litigation, due diligence review by empowered committee of government agency for merits of the case vis-a-vis Section 34 of Indian Arbitration and Conciliation Act, challenging verdict of arbitrator. So the point here is that we can reduce at the mouth of the funnel itself, allowing large number of cases to pass through, because arbitrator has given the award, they have already considered all the facts of the matter, and let's accept them. So Section 34 should not be invoked, which actually allows only few cases, exceptional cases, as a matter of fact, to be challenged in the higher courts. For second is that for cases in litigation, where litigation is currently going on, after determination of original appeal, further appeal should not be pursued, and execution done expeditiously with need to file execution proceedings. For the settlement amount, our suggestion is this, particularly for micro and small and medium enterprises. In most of the cases, in majority of the cases where the claim and counterclaim are, as a matter of fact, less than 100 crore, or rather 70 to 80% maybe less than 20 crore. That 100% of amount awarded by the court should be offered to settle the matter there and then. 80% of the award, if the award is given by the arbitrator. 50% for ongoing litigation where physical activity is stopped, and 30% where ongoing. Further, for any delay in payment of the settled amount or a part thereof beyond 30 days, where in the current scheme of things, what is suggested is 6% rate of interest. What we are proposing is that interest as specified under the delayed payment provision of the MSME Development Act should be payable, which is approximately 3 times than the benchmark, RBI benchmark. Further, for withdrawing the arbitral award for court during litigation, the bank guarantee for MSMEs may be funded by government to not put extra burden on MSMEs. So some substance of the suggestions that are emanating from the ground on this scheme is that, first of all, that we have to understand that once the arbitrator has given an award, or the court has given the award or settled the matter, I think we should not allow further appeals, and the matter should be allowed to be settled there and then, not allowing more cases to go into the system. By offering a more equitable and more fair settlement amount, which is 100% in case of the award by the court, 80% if the award is by the arbitrator. With this, I conclude, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bhardwaj. Thank you for basically in detail explaining the schemes available to the MSME, Vivad Se Vishwas 1 and 2. Indeed, your points that you have mentioned in behalf of the very micro, small, medium enterprises have been noted. they may be justified. The sum and essence of it all is that any delay, whether in litigation or arbitration or execution of the award, is a cause of and is a cost that is to be borne by the MSMEs, and the government should look at this aspect that is borne by the MSMEs more compassionately, and we will take forward these suggestions to the concerned department, and I believe that there would be some representation from the department of both MSME and the Department of Expenditure on the call today, and we hope to also get some reaction from them post our panelists that will be speaking on the other the webinar paragraphs today. Thank you so much for interacting with us, and we will hold the reactions for the concerned participants and hear from. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to the next budget para, which is basically lab-grown diamonds, and our panelists 6 and 7. I would like to introduce them to you, Professor Ramachandra Rao from IIT Madras and Dr. Neeraj Khare, Institute Chair, Professor, IIT Delhi. Please, on lab-grown diamonds. Thank you.
Thank you. So can you be on the first slide? So good afternoon. It is indeed a great honor to be a part of this webinar that has started with a motivating speech by our Honorable Prime Minister, who's always leading from the front in promoting indigenous technology developments in our great country. At the outset, we would like to thank the Government of India for giving us this opportunity at IIT Madras, and also the responsibility of building machines and processes for growing gem quality diamond and diamond for various future technologies. So we are glad, and we are all geared up to undertake the challenges related to lab-grown diamond technologies. We will have the full support of our director, Professor Kamakoti at IIT Madras, to make this project unique and successful. Well, in addition to the gem quality aspects of diamond is the future material for many electronic applications that you'll see in one of the slides. So I'm going to make the next few slides a little technical for the audience to really appreciate what kind of an important material diamond is to foresee a plethora of applications. India in the world map, in many of these pioneering and innovative technologies, we need to grow quality diamond. That's where our role comes to the fore. So if you look at the background slide here, we've been working on diamond growth and related technologies for more than 10 years now, mostly related to diamond coatings. As you can see, diamond is the hardest material. It offers a dozen different great applications. It is the hardest material. When I coat diamond on machine tools, you can improve the lifetime of these machine tools by almost 12 to 15 times. Diamond also, even though it's an electrical insulator, its thermal conductivity is the highest among all the known materials. So you can make heat spreaders, which are required for electronic circuits to dissipate heat away. And you can think of making various other devices like SAW devices, surface acoustic wave devices. And some of the higher end applications that you see on the left top are diamond windows, transparent diamond windows for X-rays and gamma rays. Because diamond is also highly radiation resistant. And one of the future technologies, there's a lot of money that governments are spending on, is on quantum computing. And in order to realize quantum bits, qubits, you need diamond doped with nitrogen. This is called NV center-based qubits. Again, diamond is a prime material to address such technologies. On the left bottom, what you see is something very interesting that even I presented it during the 14th meeting at Delhi, this is certainly would be of great interest to many industrialists probably who are listening to this short presentation. See, you need diamond electrodes, I can also make diamond conducting by doping. One such electrode is called boron dope diamond, and we make these electrodes in the lab. Now, so right now, what we have succeeded, what you see there is, from the left side, if you move to the right side of this picture at the bottom, you see that we have taken completely textile contaminated water, and using these diamond electrodes, you can purify it to a level where you can use it as a recycled water. And this will be great for our societal applications where a lot of water bodies are contaminated with diamond this textile waste and also pharmaceutical waste. You can also treat pharmaceutical waste. So this, of course, we have done at the lab level, and this can be scaled up to an extent that most of these textile and pharmaceutical industries can benefit from this technology. Just to remind you that these electrodes are only available from 2 companies or 2-3 companies around the world at a very, very high cost. And we are able to produce them at the lab level at the 1/5 of the cost. And going to the next slide now. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is on the importance of lab-grown diamond. Yeah, that's where our role at IIT Madras will be on from. Okay, so what is the importance of lab-grown diamond? Well, you all know that India is #1 in cutting and polishing diamond. But then there is a high dependency on import of rough diamonds, raw materials, and machinery. Why can't we make India self-sufficient in making #1 country in producing diamond also? We are at #2 position right after China, but it's at a distant #2. Okay, there's a huge global market that is forcing in lab-grown diamond market. So what it takes to produce diamond, of course, one of the things is a CVD unit, chemical vapor deposition. There are some companies in India that make these devices, CVD-based devices for growing diamond. But then most of the parts, especially the microwave generator, is all imported. What we are going to do in the next couple of years is to produce indigenous microwave generators and produce machines to enable even processes that would be useful as one single package. If somebody wants to use these machines, they'll have a turnkey kind of a mechanism to produce quality diamond, including high quality seeds. Seeds are very essential for growing diamond crystals for whether you're looking for gem quality applications or beyond. And what is also required is what you see is this big 90-ton machine. It's basically a Russian technology transferred to China. They've been working on these technologies for decades. India we don't have this technology. This is called the HPHT, high pressure, high temperature technology. And HPHT technology is required in order to purify diamond grown with CVD and also induce color into CVD. But it's a lot of challenge that we're going to undertake to produce these HPHT machines. What it takes is at the lower bottom, you see extremely high temperature and pressures of the order of 5 to 8 gigapascals are required. So we'll build all these machines indigenously to optimize growth recipes for high quality diamond growth, indigenization of diamond growth machines, both HPHT and CVD. That leads to cost reduction through in situ growth monitoring, etc. And then there'll be a lot of skill development in the country on these systems and processes. So the way forward is there in the next slide. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yes, the way forward is, we are looking beyond silicon carbide and gallium nitride. Of course, anything to do with diamond, with gallium nitride and silicon carbide are compatible technologies. They go hand in glove manner. As you can see here, there are lots of technologies other than looking at diamond as a gem quality material. Silicon and diamond for many applications. Gallium nitride on diamond is required for 5G and other future technologies. and so on. Well, probably we are the first in the world. In one of our recent papers, we came out with this term called diamondtronics, equivalent of electronics, which means that the world will see more of diamond-based electronic devices, especially the high frequency and high voltage devices. Next one, please. And if you look at a quick comparison of the market productions of LGD market for gem quality diamonds, by 2050, the market is going to touch about $37 billion US. But the most important thing is the schematic that you see, the plot on the left side. While the LGD market for gem quality diamond is going to grow, you look at the market potential of diamond as a substrate material for electronic applications. This is a staggering $300 billion. And then this is where I think we can take the lead. I always say this, we missed the silicon bus. Let us not miss the diamond bus. We can make diamond foundries in India and make India #1 country in producing diamond also. Thank you. I'd like now my other colleague from IIT Delhi, Professor Neeraj Khare, to add a few lines.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Rai. I mean, most of the point you have already covered. Just a couple of things I would like to emphasize here. You see, one of the very important, I mean, diamond is looked as a very precious gem and all that, and everybody looks for it. That's one of the things. Once you have these artificial diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, the cost of that lab-grown diamond is going to be much, much less than this natural grown diamonds. That's one thing. So that's a very tremendous market. Future market is there. That's what Professor Rao has already pointed out. But apart from that, if you can grow this diamond film, it has a tremendous application, and a couple of applications has already been pointed out by Professor Rao. I just would like to emphasize one thing that you see there are many, because these diamond films are very stable, thermally stable, and it's not susceptible to any corrosion. So because of that reason, if it is coated on many electrodes, the chemical stability of that electrodes will increase a lot. And in that respect, this has a lot of application in many technology. For example, in battery, where the one of the main problem of the failure of the battery is because the electrodes gets corroded.
Dendritic formation.
So that's one of the examples. The other example is that you see there's hydrogen generation. There is a lot of emphasis, and our Honorable Prime Minister has also pointed out that hydrogen will be the future goal, and India is going to lead in that. So in that direction also, the coating of this diamond film on the electrodes for generating hydrogen will create a lot more impact. There is a very green technology for production of the hydrogen that's known as photoelectrochemical splitting of the water in hydrogen and oxygen. And there, the electrodes, there again, the problem is that the electrodes are not very stable. Most of the semiconductor electrodes are not very stable for a long run. And if you coat this diamond-like film on this one with boron doped with a conducting property, it will create a lot more impact there, and it will provide a game changer. And just in the development of technology, the new game changer has come. And much of the things have been done in Professor Rao lab with IIT Madras. You see that once these diamond-like films are grown, they are earlier grown in a kind of microcrystalline nature. So the grain size were typically big, and now it is with the development of technology, it is possible to grow them in a kind of nano type of thing. The difference comes because when we have this nano-like diamond film, they are very smooth. And once you have technology in hand, which already has been developed, and the objective is to develop the machine which can grow it on a low cost. So this kind of nano-like diamond film can be grown on any of the substrates or the cutters and all kind of drilling tools and all that, and that will be very, very effective. So it will not only save the cost, but it will be very long lasting. So that's one thing. The another thing which I would like to emphasize that this diamonds are basically the wide band gap material, and because of this wide gap nature, that has a tremendous potential for application in this semiconductor electronics, especially in the high power electronics. So there are a lot of things are going on, and again, as one of the main objective of our country is to become more self-reliant in power electronics too. So in that direction, also this kind of things will be very, very useful. So we are very thankful to the government for the grant which has been given to the IIT Madras for developing this technology, and this will really bring some very good thing. And the objective is to develop this, what Professor Rao has already told, that to develop the machine which can develop these films and this diamond in a low cost manner, and to also explore many more new potential application for these kind of films. Okay, I would like to end this point because of the lack of time. Otherwise, I can keep on speaking because such a very interesting idea and all that, and it is a great potential both in terms of the market and affecting the technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Neeraj, and thanks for giving us this opportunity. So in a nutshell, I would like to say that diamond is an ultimate material. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ramchandra Rao and Dr. Neeraj. Indeed, we learned a lot about the uses of diamonds. I always knew that diamond was I now believe that diamond is the next, like one of you said, the next bus that India has to get onto. Yes. And I believe that with the development of technology and machinery at your eminent institutes, with the fact that India is also has a high skill set in the diamond polishing business, I think this is an apt subsector in which one should go into, use diamond and lab-grown diamonds for end users in the various industries, like you mentioned, aerospace, power, semiconductors, all some things that are having great CAGR for the coming years. And I think this is a great opportunity for our country. And we hope that lab-grown diamonds does help us to, position ourselves globally in this particular sector. Thank you so much for taking out your time, sharing your views with us and educating us.
Thank you.
We come to an end to the comments by our 7 esteemed panelists, and the session is now open for comments, any kind of suggestions we would look forward to. And I think this part of the discussion is something that we would be greatly interested. So the floor is open. I would be happy if somebody would come forward and give their comments and observations, please. Thank you.
You can stop sharing probably.
Hello.
Hello.
Ma'am, can I put forth my...
Yes, I just want to request everybody who is now saying their observations, please introduce yourself and go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Ma'am, I am Anil Agarwal, Chartered Accountant and member of Jabalpur Chamber of Commerce. The thing which has been put forth are that the panelists will agree, all panelists has agreed to this fact that there are still compliance issues are there. Then cost of complying is still a heavy burden for MSMEs. And lastly, the most important thing is that this government listens to the issues pertaining to these MSMEs. Now, the point here is that still the MSMEs are suffering from funding issues. The bank are not providing fund. Even the government has provided the credit guarantee scheme. Still the banks are not being cordial to these MSMEs for providing the funds. The payment issues are still there, although the government has made provisions in the Income Tax Act to provide the funds to the MSMEs, but still the problem is with the MSME Council, that MSME Council, the powers of MSME councils are not so strong that they can provide solution to the MSMEs regarding the payment issues. So overall, no doubt the panelist has presented very well, but ma'am, these things should be put forth before the government that MSMEs are still suffering from the funds and the payments issues, which still needs attention. And yes, the compliance issues are still there, which needs to be eased out in the coming days.
Ma'am, may I say something?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Chitranjan Biswal, representing IMED, Association of Indian Medical Device Industry. Ma'am, one of our company, Neeraj Industries, they have constructed a factory building in March 2022. And we have written so many letters, including you, ma'am, but it is around 12 months. We did not get OC. And ultimately, we received a demand notice that we have to pay 37 lakhs for that as the OC. Ma'am, just I don't want to say anything wrong, but we did not pay any underhand at the table. And that's why this thing happened. But to whom to approach now? Ultimate hope is the court, but that will also take so long. I don't know what kind of ease of doing business, ma'am. We are in the ground. We are suffering so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Bishwas.
Street?
Yes, please. Next. Yes.
Can I come in, ma'am? Myself, Vijay Goyal.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, if you permit, can I make a small observation on the gentleman who spoke first?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So, ma'am, I think while the whole agenda today revolves around technology, and the government has enabled officials with a lot of dashboards and MIS and using analytics to monitor. So I think there is a remarkable opportunity there also to bring, I would say, more timely dispersal to a lot of issues which are being highlighted with regards to MSME and the point around facilitation council. I think leveraging data, what basically the management principle is, ma'am, you need to monitor first to be able to improve. So if we are able to create those dashboards using technologies which actually bring to light and enable the officials to monitor what is going on, I think there will thereafter a lot of these things can actually be taken to resolution timely. That will be my rebuttal to the first point.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. The next suggestion.
Myself, Vijay Goyal. हमारा ये विजय गोयल फ्रॉम रायपुर. मैडम, मेरा एक ये मानना है कि माइक्रो और स्मॉल यूनिट्स के लिए कंप्लायंस बर्डन को कम करने के लिए सबसे पहले हमें कंप्लायंस रिपोर्ट, इनकम टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, जीएसटी रिपोर्ट, आरओसी रिपोर्ट माइक्रो और स्मॉल यूनिट के लिए एक कॉमन बनाना होगा. अभी हमें 3 जगह से कराना पड़ता है. जीएसटी के लिए अलग ऑडिट कराना पड़ता है, इनकम टैक्स के लिए अलग और आरओसी के लिए अलग. ये हमारे बहुत ज्यादा कॉस्ट को बढ़ाता है और टाइम वेस्ट करता है. सेकेंड थिंग, अभी नीड ऑफ द आवर ये है कि बैंकों में माइक्रो और स्मॉल यूनिट के लिए कॉम्पिटिटिव रेट में इंटरेस्ट पे लोन मिलने के लिए लाइक मोबाइल नंबर पोर्टेबिलिटी, बैंक अकाउंट नंबर पोर्टेबिलिटी की आवश्यकता है. थर्ड वन इज फॉर दिस माइक्रो एंड स्मॉल के लिए रिपो रेट प्लस 3% इंटरेस्ट रेट मैक्सिमम इस पे कैप लगाया जाए. अभी एट प्रेजेंट कोई 15% चार्ज करता है, कोई 12% करता है, कोई 10% मांगता है. इस पे विचार करना चाहिए. हेलो.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please.
Yeah, ma'am. My name is Giri. I am from Shahi Exports, one of the biggest garment exporters from India. Ma'am, I'll just give some general remarks in the beginning because which is there in my mind. When we talk about ease of doing business, it has simplified so many things. It has basically the 10 parameters. So these parameters firstly talk about, starting the business, getting the permits, construction permits, getting electricity, getting, various kinds of, credit, and then the registration of the property, etc. It also talks about the insolvency, which means, the starting the business and closing the business has become quite easy, but operating the business, a lot needs to be done. Many things have been done, but at the same time, a lot needs to be done. Now, I'll come to the specifics. Since I am from the export business, there are certain issues, which everybody is facing. Now, say, for example, getting the licenses. Now, the policy, foreign trade policy talks about that is on self-declaration basis, you can get the license. But particularly chapter 50 to 63 are excluded from that. Basically, these chapters are pertaining to textiles and apparel. It is not known why this has been, that particular condition has been put only for these chapters. This is number one. Of course, that needs to be. We also pleaded with the government, at least, those companies which are having AEO registration with the customs, authorized economic operators, at least those companies can, get the licenses on self-declared basis. But so far it has not been done. So this is one point, which may be taken kindly. The second one is, discharge of the export obligations, EODC certificate. Now the government is having entire data. What I import, what I export, everything has been captured. But still, we have to apply to the, again, the DGFT's office for discharge of the discharge certificate. Then the scrutiny is done. When the data is available with the government itself, can tell me that this is the duty which is payable by you at the close of the that license period, or as soon as I complete import and export, it should come, EODC should come automatically. Like in a banking transactions, banking, we don't go to the bank, but then everything is, coming on this thing. Similarly, the facility or the, technology can be leveraged, to give this thing. It will definitely, it will be a feather in the cap of ease of doing business. Now, when I'm talking again, of ease of doing business, now we have to migrate from ease of doing business to pleasure of doing business. So that pleasure of doing business is somewhere missing. So this is what, we need to inch towards that one. The third thing, which is again pertaining to DGFT's office, that's a norms fixation. Now, if certain norms are fixed, if certain products are beyond the norms, we have to go to the committee. Now, on the self-declaration basis, can I not do it? There has got to be a trust. The trust deficit has to go when we are talking about the pleasure of doing business or ease of doing business. Of course, there could be, some people, who might, try to misuse this facility. But of course, the government has, various means, to fix such kind of things. So these are some of the things, which is there in my mind, and maybe that, this will definitely ease the life of the people. Also, one more aspect, which I want to again, highlight is when we export. Now the responsibility, getting the GST, for that we have to give the EGM, that's Export General Manifest Number. Now, which I don't do it, it is done by the shipping company. So that responsibility has been put on me that, you furnish. So I keep on running around, for getting that EGM number, which now for that, if the government wants to have the proof of exports, there are various other documents. My bill of lading is there, or the shipping bill is there, all these documents. So not only that EGM number, that there should be some alternate other documents also which should be accepted. So this is what, but I ultimately congratulate the government and you for taking this kind of initiative, and it has really helped. Earlier, we used to make frequent, trips, to the customs, DGFT's office. This is gone completely now, and then it's a very good sign so that we can concentrate on our own business. Thank you, ma'am.
We can take 5 more speakers. They would like to say something, because we're running short of time and we need to lag on to the next one also by 2 o'clock sharp. Yes, please.
Ma'am, can I go ahead? Yeah, my name is Vamsi and we are an agri-tech and food startup. So actually, I want to just say my pains of these compliance related issues. Actually, we are trying to file for the trademark for last 1 year. And even though it's a distillation and we had filed all the forms, it's being delayed from the government end, and we are paying the fines because of their delay. And it's almost a year that we had filed the form. And apart from that, we are fighting for filing the Spice Plus form for the last 5 months. And due to the technical glitches which we are having in the form, we are unable to file the form. And all the money which we had incurred in the process is being wasted right now. And we would like to have an alternative solution, because we are trying to reach the regional offices and we are trying to reach the Delhi offices of commerce, and still we are unable to find the solution. Even though we are in a distillation stage and there's a single window system, we should have a manual format for filing under these circumstances, which we don't know, so that it will be easy for the applicants as well, because of paying fines and the money which we are incurring in the process is almost being wasted because of the technical glitches and because of some lags in the government system. So we would like to bring to your notice, and we would like to have a solution regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please. And for the Agri startup, my suggestion is to log on to the National Single Window and go on to the grievance redressal mechanism. They do a call every day, Monday to Friday, between 3 and 4. I would suggest you go there, log in your complaint. We will have it looked into specifically for your trademarks. The next speaker, please.
Hello, ma'am. May I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Sresh Sumar and I'm from SNR Associates, that is a leading law firm in India. Now, I would like to build upon the ideas presented by Mr. Khambhat and Mr. Ravichandran, wherein we need to understand the way the legal compliances are also working. Now, when a lot of investors approach us, they are really wary of the compliances, legal compliances, be it environmental compliances, or be it other financial RBI compliances done by the companies before investing. Now, the amount of time which goes in conducting that due diligence is very significant in India as compared to other countries. For one major reason, because there is no way these documents can be claimed from any government portal. For example, if you want to check trademark in India, there is a portal we can check whether there is a trademark or not. Whereas there is not a single window to check environmental compliances, and these documents have to be produced by the company which is looking for investment themselves. So therefore, our suggestion would be that to have a window wherein, like we have a CIBIL score, similarly a general score can be given. There is this company is in compliance with all the major laws of this country, be it employment laws, be it environmental laws, so that will ease the investments directly. And in addition to this, there can also be certain deemed certification. For example, like the amount of compliances with respect to environment are very less for let's say a fintech company or a tech company as compared to a manufacturing company. So like we have a division, as Mr. Khambhat also suggested, that red flags and blue flags can be given. We can have a division based on like we have in the FDI policy, the green field, the brown field. So similar divisions can be given that if you are a company within like such classification in terms of the activities undertaken, you have a deemed approval and you don't have to go ahead with anything else. So that would be our recommendation.
Thank you. The last 3 comments, please, if there are any. Any more suggestions or comments or suggestions?
Hello, ma'am. Amit from IVC again. I think, the sessions were really insightful, and all the speakers, including the other remarks made by some of the attendees, were really nice. I think, we have taken the right steps in the right direction in this budget. And if we can definitely, the on-ground implementation of all of these things, it will be really heartwarming, because a bunch of these problems will definitely get settled. One thing that, I'd like to highlight is that we must ensure of taking maybe timely feedbacks on some of these initiatives as we move forward. Like, for example, the span as CBI, definitely, if we take timely, because eventually the end user is going to be driving a bunch of these, initiatives, and with their timely feedbacks, we will definitely be able to circle back and see how to make it much more user friendly for the, companies at large. So I think, it's definitely, again, like we all have to see how it goes from here, but these are definitely heartwarming moves, and, looking forward. Thank you so much for having me. And all
Thank
of us.
you. I think very well said that I think the conversation needs to continue. And we at DPIIT, it's in our endeavor to constantly engage with different sectoral associations. We will try and increase the frequency of our associations, and we hope that we would get open feedback and something that can be implementable at the ground level. Thank you. I would like to request one last comment before we can close our session.
May I say something, madam?
Yes, please. Yes.
Anil Bharadwaj from FISME. As a matter of fact, if you listen to some of the comments of our audience, from the audience, and including from Mr. Shahi, our representative from Shahi Exports, they point out to the same thing for which the title of today's seminar stands, that how to ease of doing business by using technology. And that, I think, is a way forward, especially use of artificial intelligence. I give you two specific examples, like, on Vivad Se Vishwas. So currently, we are not aware that how many cases in India are currently, are captured in where disputes are there between supplier and the government, and at which stage they are. Is it the arbitral stage, at the higher court stage, or at the Supreme Court stage, and so on and so forth. And also, it is only through artificial intelligence that we can, by using right algorithm, would know that, what is the pattern and where are the reforms needed, which specific rules, particularly in JFR, might be tweaked in order to reduce the number of cases. So it is like, use of that technology and especially artificial intelligence. Similarly, our friend from Shahi Exports raised very, very important issues. All of them were actually right. But on fixation of norms and in exclusion of textile and other garments industry and a couple of other industrial sectors, the reason is that the maximum number of misuse have also been reported from them. But again, the way forward is the use of technology, creating profiling and using a large number of data points, and again using algorithm the way it is being done, for example, in the income tax and the GST. If we do the same amount of data crunching in Department of Commerce and particularly DGFT, I think there would not be any need for stopping many sectors to take advantage of our schemes, and the trust would be restored with the help of technology. So I think the way forward is use of artificial intelligence, and that would help create more trust.
Very valid suggestions and comments. I completely agree with you. I think government should not just collate data, also use it more intelligently, and we should move into a policy making status where we use data intelligently and for our best purposes, and to provide solutions like you mentioned, and that the policy should be driven in that direction by the use of data. One last question, and then we'll have to please close. Yes.
Madam Vijay Goyal again here. मेरा ये कहना है कि जीएसटी के आईटीसी क्रेडिट के लिए बहुत सारे इश्यूज हमेशा के लिए बने हुए हैं। अतः हमारा ये सजेशन है, जिस तरीके से बैंक अकाउंट में हम अपना बैंकिंग अकाउंट मेंटेन करते हैं, उसी तरीके से जीएसटी के में भी आईटीसी का डेबिट क्रेडिट लेजर बनाया जाए, क्योंकि अब आज की डेट में 5 करोड़ तक के टर्नओवर के लिए ई इनवॉइस बनाना जरूरी है। तो उसको जो है आईटीसी को रियल टाइम पे जो है बनाया जा सकता है, तो इसमें विचार करना चाहिए जिससे कि आईटीसी को स्मूथ फ्लो हो सके। थैंक यू।
Thank you. With this last comment, we come to the end of the breakout session. My very sincere thanks to all the 7 panelists for taking out time, for going through the entire paras with such detailed explanations, by giving their own observations and comments. My deepest, sincerest thanks to all the people who logged in to the webinar to listen to our panelists and also share their thoughts and comments. I believe interactions like these will only help in improving and continuing this conversation and this journey of ease of doing business, which basically will only prosper and be more effective as we creatively and innovatively look at solutions, not only for the common man, but also for the smallest entities like the MSMEs that we talk about. And yes, the learnings from this conversation is that technology is a very strong tool that we have at our advantage. We as policymakers should only be able to use it for the advantage of creating such decisions that would help and benefit the maximum number of people. And I hope that this is just one of these conversations, and we hope to interact with you again on many other different forums. I request everybody to log off from the breakout session, and we will all be assembling back to the main session on that link that we all heard the Honorable Prime Minister and then the Secretary Meti and the other esteemed specialist speakers at sharp 2 p.m. for a summary of all the breakout sessions, and also would hear some of the Honorable Ministers who would like to give their observations and comments thereon. That session starts at sharp 2 p.m. I thank you all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
moderating this in such a nice way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.